Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Young and Biblical. My name is Cruz, and finally did it. Releasing my testimony to YouTube on this channel, and I'm so excited. It's been something that I've wanted to do, and Reed went back when he was on the podcast wanted to do for a while, just so you get to know us more and to understand what our walk with Christ has been and has become. So, getting into this, I was born in a very, very, very big town of 200 people called Alligator, Mississippi. I grew up there for, I think, 4 or 5 years of my life with my mom, my dad, and my sister. And we lived on a farm. My mom, she was a librarian, and my dad, he was a truck driver. And we went to school in Clarksdale, Mississippi, which, if you don't know, home of the blues. I think Morgan Freeman's from there. If not, he has a restaurant there, so that's kind of cool. It's pretty much our only claim to fame. At around 4 or 5, I can't remember, I was 4 or 5, we moved to Marks, where I grew up most of my life. And on Marks, it was a little bit bigger, I think it had 2,000 people. Last time I checked, which is cool. And I went to high school at Delta Academy. So getting into the spiritual part of my life, I'd grown up in church my whole life. I'm pretty sure the week I was brought home, I was at church on Sunday. And I'm a Baptist, if you didn't know. So, yeah. I grew up in church, and I got saved around, quote unquote saved. There's a story behind it. I'll get into it later. But we moved to Marks around 4 or 5, and I think it was 5. So about a year or so later, my dad, he actually passed away in a 18-wheeler wreck. It was very heartbreaking. As I mentioned, I've been in church my whole life, so I know who God was. And I questioned God. I was like, why, God? Why would you take my father away from me? That's all I wanted to be when I grew up. Like every little boy, I wanted to be my dad when I grew up. I wanted to be a farmer. I wanted to be an 18-wheeler driver. That's all I wanted out of life. So that definitely hurt, and definitely left me questioning, why God did it. And one thing I did post my father's death was I repressed it. I repressed all of those feelings, and that was not good for me. All those feelings came up later in life, and I had to deal with them then, which was not a good habit to do. So after that, I was a very shy kid growing up, unless I was around my friends. If I was around my friends, I was, like ADHD, hyper crazy, and I'm still like that. If you meet me and I know you, I'm gonna be hyper, and I'm gonna be like very talkative. But if I don't know you and like I'm just meeting you, then I'm gonna be very quiet. And I was like that a lot of times with people. But going on, my mom, she remarried, I think, in 2007 or 8, I'm not real sure. At the time, my stepdad, I don't believe he was saved, and my sister wasn't saved at the time. My mom was, and I, of course, was not saved as well. So around that time, we were in church at a church called West Marks Baptist, which was where I went to church for a good portion of my life. And my stepdad, he decided he was getting saved. And around the same time, my sister said, hey, she's getting saved too. So my mom comes up and asks me, it's like, hey, do you want to get saved? These two are getting saved. They won't embarrass you, because she knew I was shy and I didn't like going in front of people. So I was like, what the heck, I'll get saved. I didn't know what it meant at the time. I didn't know, why I needed to be saved. But, I'll give it a shot. I get to go get in a really warm bathtub. That's always pretty cool. Um, so, yeah, I got saved on a Wednesday night service, and throughout the service, I had fallen asleep, actually. I woke up right before they called my stepdad, my sister, and I to go up and get saved. And I like to, when I'm telling this story, I like to say saved. I was not saved at that time. I truly believe that I didn't know what I was getting into. So I continued on after that, labeled as a Christian. I'd been saved um, and been baptized and everything. So I claimed it, and I was not a good example of a Christian. In front of people, like in front of adults, I was always mild mannered. I was raised, I think, really well by my mom. So I was able to act really Christian-like there, but around my friends, I wasn't. I was very prideful. I was lying. I was cussing. I was doing all these things that I shouldn't have. And, people that weren't Christians at that time that were in my friend group, they could look to me as a Christian, like, well, he's no different than us. He cusses, he lies, he does all these things. Why is he special? And I couldn't answer that question. I wasn't special. I wasn't set apart like Christians are meant to be. I was just like the rest of the world, and that carried on for. I believe I was saved in 6th grade. So, until 9th grade. 9th grade came around, and this pastor came to town. Him and his wife. They were amazing. His wife was my English teacher, and, the pastor was to this church that was across the street, which I didn't go to or my family went to at the time. And he brought with him these games, on Wednesday nights. They were... they played kickball and football and ultimate frisbee at the back of their church. They had a big lot, and they played it every Wednesday. And I was like, this seems pretty fun. I'm gonna go over there. I have some friends over there. I'm gonna go hang out for a bit. And they had food, and it was so cool. And I was like, man, I really want to go hang out over there. So I did. And after we ate, after we played, he would have a sermon, just a little lesson every Wednesday. And I was like, if I have to go through, a sermon or a message to go hang out with some friends and play kickball and football and all this, I'll do it. And so I did it. I did it for a couple weeks, and then weeks turned into months, and I got really involved with it. And the Brother Will is the name of the pastor, if you couldn't guess. If you've been listening to the podcast, I mention him pretty much every episode. He's absolutely one of my favorite people in the entire world. Love that guy. Big ups to Brother Will if you're watching this. So he mentioned that there was going to be this summer camp, this church camp to get away, and we'd go to Six Flags. We would go on this mountain, and we'd have this really cool church camp. And there was going to be games and stuff, and it seemed so cool. And I was like, you know what, I want to go. So I told my mom, and she let me go. And I went, and I felt something, tugging on my heart when I got there. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I was quote-unquote saved. So, I didn't think it was, God talking to me. I just thought, I was feeling weird. I'm on a mountain. I've never been on a mountain. I've lived in the Delta my whole life. Everything's flat. So I do that for a couple more summers. I go to this church camp that they have every year. And it came around in my junior year of high school. I went on another camp, and I was listening to this song. It was during the worship service. It's called "You're a Good, Good Father." If you can't tell, that really messed me up. Having no father figure, like, that was very influential in my life. And since, my dad died when I was real young, And my stepdad was there, and he's great, and I love him now. I just don't think he was the figure I needed in my life at that point in time. But um, it tore me up because the song goes, "You're a good, good father. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am." And it basically is explaining that God is our Father, and He will never abandon us. He will love us unconditionally. And for a person without a very prominent father figure in his life, that spoke to me, and that broke me down. As I looked up during that worship service, trying to stop crying, you look up trying to stop crying, I see like there's a speaker mounted on the ceiling, and on the speaker shadows, like the mount of it, it made a cross. And I was like, well, if that ain't a sign that I need Jesus, then I don't know what is. Jesus is going to have to come down and hit me over the head with a baseball bat or something. So I'm in tears at that point, sobbing. And I talked to one of my good friends at the time, Sarah, Reed's wife, actually. So you know her. She's a big part of this story. She talks to me, and we go over what I was going through, and then I go back to where we're staying and talk to this guy named Cody Smith. He's in the Marine Corps now, which is really cool. So I talked to him, and he says, "Hey man, I'm not qualified for this. You need to talk to Brother Will or Kyle Cook, who is our chaperone, a really good friend of mine now." And so I end up talking to Kyle, and I get saved that night, and I was ecstatic. I was just on top of the world. And from that moment on, it really shows like the difference in my life, because I didn't mind this. This sounds horrible. Prior to being saved, I really didn't mind sinning. I would do it, and I wouldn't feel bad at all. After I got back from that summer camp, I still sinned, and it broke me apart. I was like sobbing after sinning, and I realized this hurts God so much. It's truly sickening to sin without remorse, because I've said it on the podcast before. It's essentially spitting in Jesus' face, on the cross. I remember there's this story from the Passion of the Christ movie. Mel Gibson made it, and Mel Gibson said that he wanted to be the one to nail Jesus' hands into the cross, to signify, he was responsible for that. We are responsible for Jesus dying on the cross. And that mindset really instilled in me after I got saved that, I am the reason that he was there. I'm the reason he died. I'm the reason he took on sin. And it broke me. After getting back from the church camp, I got involved in missions to Brazil. We went to Porto Machino, which is a lovely area, I believe, on the border of Paraguay, I think. Yeah. And it's a lovely town, and I went with Brother Will and my best friend at the time, Jake, and a couple other people from our church. And it was an amazing experience. I absolutely loved it. And so I went back the next summer. And the next summer we went to a place called Corumbá. Corumbá was on the border of Bolivia. And it is a place that's truly special in my heart. I absolutely love Corumbá. I love the people there. I love just everything about it. I went on 4 mission trips to Brazil, and 3 of them were to Corumbá. It's just an amazing city, and the people are just so wonderful and so accepting of our mission there. We were sharing the gospel. We were having revivals every single day at a church that was there. And I just loved it. Luckily I got to share my testimony a couple times there. So I was I was just over the moon going over there, and there's truly some of the happiest moments of my life is in Corumbá in Brazil. Um, but yeah, I got involved into more stuff when I came back from I believe third mission trip. I went to this church camp where I got offered a job to be one of the teachers there, and this is truly like the moment I realized my whole purpose in life. Um, I was teaching with this girl named Lindsay. We were co-teachers, and every camp that came through, we would like share a testimony one night. And one night I'm sharing my testimony, and this little kid comes up to me afterwards. He had his father had recently passed in a car wreck, which that's very similar to my story. And I'm telling you what I told him now, basically my entire life story, and why God did what He did in my life and why I was chosen. And so he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, my father just passed. I was really inspired by your story, and I think I want to get saved." And he got saved, and it was at that moment I truly understood, why God took my father from me at that age. Just to talk to this one kid so I can lead him to Christ and to inspire him to be a Christian and a good Christian at that. And I hope he's doing well. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I hope and pray he's doing well, and that he's following on in his Christian walk. So yeah, one big thing that I want to point out in my testimony that is, if you're a young Christian, I pray that you do this, is find a mentor. In my life, it was Brother Will. He was a huge part of my life, and I'm not going to be sitting here talking to you through a screen, granted, talking to you about Christ without him in my life. He was a leader to all of the students at Delta, and just Marks in general, that he changed so many lives. Myself, Jake, who is one of my best friends, David, one of my best friends, and Kyle Cook, as I mentioned before, he was saved under the time that Brother Will spent in Marks. And without him, my Christianity flames out. I don't know what I'm doing now if he's not in my life. And that was the glaring difference in my life, in the two being saved, quote unquote, and actually being saved. When I first got saved, I was on my own. I said that I accepted Jesus in my heart. I didn't know what it meant. And I think that's the most important part of being saved, is actually knowing what it means and actually knowing what it costs. I had that with Brother Will, and I had other people along the way. Jake, he had been saved for a couple years at that time. Sarah, she had been saved a couple years at that time, and they were able to lead me and show me how to truly be a Christian. Not just these rules that you have to follow. No, it was like, being kinder and, being actually sincere with talking to people about Christ and living truly for Christ. And that's the most important thing you do, is to truly live for Christ. The saying goes, it's really easy to die for something, but it's really, really hard to live for something. So I pray that whoever's listening to this or watching this right now, that you live for Christ. Don't just say that you're a Christian. Truly live out the Christian walk. Christian was a word that was made to be a mockery of Christians, of followers of Christ. It means to be, if I'm remembering this correctly, don't quote me on this, Christian translates to little Christ. So we are made to be, this little version of Christ. Christ is here, we're meant to be here. You need to be like Jesus, It's not all about following rules, it's all about following Jesus. And that's the most important thing. So yeah, that's my whole life story. I really hope you enjoy, and I will try to upload here on YouTube a couple more times. Just different videos, like maybe I was thinking like tips for being a single Christian, or something like that. You can leave suggestions in the comments below. And I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.